Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching the Technique of the Month from Digital Photo Magazine. This month I've started to crack up. Well, actually not me, just my pictures fortunately. So today I'm going to show you how to create this amazing cracked image effect. Okay, let's go back to our start picture. To begin with, we're really going to need to see the layers. So if you can't see them, go to Window and choose Layers. This technique does use, well, quite a lot of layers if I'm honest with you, but don't let that put you off because it really is very simple. Once you get the hang of the first couple of layers, everything else is exactly the same. So what we're going to do to make this appear cracked up is to make a template, and we're going to make that on its own layer. So come up to Layer, choose New Layer, and call it a name. We might as well call it Template. If I can spell it properly, that's better, and click OK. Now we need to put some colour in that template. It doesn't really matter what colour if I'm honest with you, but to make life a lot easier, let's reset our foreground colour to black and our background colour to white, and click Edit, Fill Layer, and fill it with the foreground colour. Now the next step is quite small, but it's really important. Swap the layers over so white now becomes your foreground colour. Go up to Filter, choose Texture and Stained Glass. Now this is where we're going to get the cracked pattern from, and now you can see why it was important to have white as your foreground colour, because that defines the colour of the edges of this sort of cracked stained glass look. Now this is the filter gallery, and it does rather fill your screen, so we need to pan across in a second, but before we do, down in the bottom left corner there's a plus and a minus symbol. Click the minus symbol a few times until your picture fills the screen. And to make it even easier, there's a little up arrow here. I'm going to click that and just hide the rest of the filters temporarily. Okay, so this is the business end, the right-hand side. What you've got here is a slider called cell size, and if you decrease the cell size, you get more cells, and if you increase it, well, you can probably guess that one, really. If I put it all the way up to maximum, you should see, in a second, there we go, that it fills the image with just a few cells. Now, if you want to do this technique but have bigger cracks, which is a bit quicker to do, then that's the setting to use. I'm going to bring it down one step, down to 49 on the cell size, and that just makes it quite a bit different there. Now we've got quite a few more cells. The other thing to do here is to move the light intensity all the way down to 0. You may have seen just a little sort of bright spot in the center of the image there, and that now disappears. Okay, click OK. That's done with the filter. And on our template, you can now see we have this cracked effect. Our original picture is still safely underneath it. But this is the one we're going to work on just for the moment. What I'm going to do is to get the magic wand tool and click in one of the cells around the outside of the template. And that puts the marching ants just in that area only. Now I'm going to click back onto the background layer, which is the main picture itself. Come up to Edit and choose Copy, and then go back to Edit again and choose Paste, and that pastes in a new layer with just that little bit of the image in it. If I switch this one off and switch the background off, you can see just that small piece of sky is there. Okay, so now we have to repeat that once or twice. Let's go back to the template layer, click it to make it active, get the magic wand tool and click on the next cell around. Now remember to go back to the background layer, that's the one with your image on, Edit and Copy, and Edit and Paste, and there's the next bit. And off we go again, back to the template layer, click the next cell, click back onto the background layer, which is the bit I always seem to forget to do, but click on the background layer and go to Edit and Copy. Now, to make this a little bit quicker, you can see there's a keyboard shortcut, Control and C for copy, and another one for paste, which is Control and V. So if you go down to your keyboard, you can press Control and C to copy, then Control and V to paste. And that kind of speeds things up a little bit. So go back to the template, click on the next cell, click back onto the background, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and so on. And it just speeds the workflow up ever so slightly. And away you go. Now I'm going to go around all the way around the edge of these. That'll take just a minute or two. So if you want to rejoin me in a second, and we should be a little bit more completed. Okay, so welcome back. I've just got one more bit to do. And it didn't take too long to do that, just a few minutes or so, just to copy the edges. And what I've now got is 17 layers in total. Each one has one part of the edge of the picture. But the center of the picture, now you could go through and select all of those cells in exactly the same way, but to keep the center of the picture as a single object, to stop it being broken and looking a bit strange, I'm actually going to select all of the center cells. So let's go back to the template layer, and with the magic wand, click on one. Now hold the Shift key and click on the others. And by holding Shift, I'll be adding to my selection with the magic wand, until I've got all the inner ones now completely selected. Now it looks quite good, unless you zoom in a bit, and then you can see that in fact it of course didn't cross over the white edges, so we need to do just a little bit of work to that selection. Go up to Select and choose Modify and expand the selection just by 2 or 3 pixels. It doesn't need many, and that should make all of those center bits become unselected. It adds them into the selection basically. So there we go, that's looking pretty good. So we can go right back down to the background layer, click it to select it, go to Edit, Copy and Edit, Paste, or use the keyboard shortcuts, and that adds our large bit in the center. Right, now our template has done its job, so we can chuck that in the bin. We don't need that anymore. And our original picture has also done its job. We can turn it off, and you can see all the cracks, which means I've managed to select everything correctly and paste it all in. So I'm going to fill that layer. Click it first of all to make it the background active. Set white as your foreground color, and go to Edit, Fill Layer, so it's filled with white. Okay, so that's the boring technical bit done. Now we get on with the fun artistic bit, because now we can make sure that all of these little cracks and splits are sort of jiggled around a wee bit. So what we're going to do is to get the Move tool and click on the first one up at the top here and just drag it in like so. Now you can see I've moved it out of position, but it doesn't have that kind of shaded effect that our final picture's got. To achieve that, we need to change the blend mode for that layer to multiply. And now it has that kind of darker edge that we were looking at when we saw our final image right at the beginning. So we need to go through and make all of these layers into multiply. So let's click the next layer down, change it from normal to multiply. Now I'd like to tell you there's a really shortcut to do this, but I couldn't find one. The best way I can find to do it is just to click the next layer along, and as long as normal is highlighted, use the down arrow on your keyboard 1, 2, 3 times to change it to multiply. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. It doesn't actually take very long, to be honest. There we go. Already halfway through. And oh, look, I can already see the bottom. Okay, so now all of those layers are multiply. And now when we start moving these around, go back to the next layer down, we should get quite nice little effects coming like so. One tip, when you have the Move tool active, tick Auto Select Layer, because that means I can now click on these very quickly, and rather than trying to find the layers from within our layer stack, we can simply let Photoshop do the work and it'll find it for us. Okay, so let's move those in like so. Okay, now that's looking pretty good, but if you want to add to the effect a little bit, you can also put a bit of a twist on these as well. So let's start with that first one we had before, and we'll go up to Image, Transform, and Free Transform. That brings this little sort of bounding box around the edge. If I move my cursor just outside, I can put a slight twist in there and click the tick. And then we'll repeat that with some of the other ones as well. Image, Transform, Free Transform, and twist that one over too. And we'll go around doing that as well. Now you'll again notice another keyboard shortcut on Free Transform, Control T. So we can press Control T and save us again a few clicks on the mouse. So Control T brings up the same box, and around we go. And perhaps we'll do a few over this side as well. Brilliant, there we go. And maybe this one, bring that in. Smashing. Okay, so there we are. We've now cracked up our image and we've given it this kind of weird sort of shading effect around each of the cracks. Have an experiment, have a play, see what great images you can come up with, and don't forget to send the best ones to us here at the magazine.